All right, guys, we're going to be talking about the criminal justice system today. I hope everybody's been doing all right. You know, in lieu of the events that's been happening as it relates to the Casey Anthony trial, I thought I wanted to speak briefly about the legal industry. So I pose this question to you. The information that you have about the legal industry, where did you get it from? I can guarantee you weren't taught in school. But there's one place you've been taught about the legal industry. It's the television. It's police dramas, shows like CSI, Law and Order, high-profile court cases, the People's Court. Now, while I admit those shows make for great entertainment, you know, we watch those court cases on those shows, and we'll see where a group of police officers come together, try to solve a murder, and you know, the show starts to get real exciting. The police start to close in on the suspect. The suspense is heavy, and when it seems like the police have found their guy, the case takes a unexpected twist in another direction, and they realize they've got the wrong guy. And then later on in the show, we'll see the police in a lab. We'll see a scientist standing over a dead body. So the scientist tells the police officer, "This is our guy." And so later on in the show, they're having a trial. The scientist takes the stand, and he raises his hand and he states, "Based on the information that I have predicated on my profession, this is the guy." You know, then it becomes a dead letter issue. But however, when we watch these cop shows, we never see the defense bring in their own expert witness to rebut the witness that the government has brought. Now, of course, that's television. But in the real world, in most court cases, there are no forensics. The only thing we have is the testimony off of one person, and they just happen to identify some person out of a lineup. You know, we already have credible scientific evidence to suggest that when traumatic experiences happen to people, you know, your brain produces chemicals that make you stupid, and it's impossible for you to remember. But we have people on death row because of that type of evidence. You know, in the real world, most of the so-called forensic science and pseudoscience that we've been led to believe, most of it's inadmissible into evidence because most of it isn't scientific at all. You know, when I watch some of those police drama shows for entertainment, within the first 5 minutes of watching the shows, you know, I can point out 5 or 10 constitutional violations, as well as violations of the rules of evidence that will cause the whole trial to be thrown out. But they don't actually explain law to you in cop shows. You know, like I say, it's just entertainment. Consequently, the average American has no interaction or no experience with the legal profession. And so what happens is that people develop a sort of faith, belief, and reverence in our legal system when it shouldn't be. You know, expert witnesses, they are hired guns. You know, most expert witnesses, that's how they make their living, testifying and agreeing with the state. So question, if the expert witness is paid for by the state, whose best interest do you think they're going to have? Quite frankly, because of the rules of evidence, you know, expert witnesses, they aren't required to give the scientific method to the jury that they use to reach their conclusion. The only thing they're required to do is to state their opinion. And the jury is left to make a decision based off their opinion instead of being taught the actual science. So for example, let's say if the state bring in an expert witness to testify that a building is faulty, they may say, well, this certain piece of metal burns at a certain temperature. The jury wouldn't be allowed to have that piece of information because the jury, they only make their decisions based off opinions. You know, prosecutors routinely coach their expert witnesses in how to evade questions, how to lie, and how to confuse the issue so much that the jury is unable to make any sense of it. You know, chances are, if you got an attorney defending you, and I hate to say this, you know, Supreme Court Justice Warren Burger has already stated that 75 to 90% of attorneys are incompetent. You know, and you'll see in a lot of these cases, you know, your attorney is too cheap to get an expert witness to testify against the other expert witness. You know, and most of the time, you know, the average attorney, they don't know how to do a decent cross-examination and impeach one of those expert witnesses. They don't know how to do it, you know, or in some rare fluke of occasion, if your attorney does happen to find an expert witness to rebut the evidence the state's going to bring, the jury is already so biased on different pieces of evidence and technology that's routinely saw on cop shows, they won't even consider the rebuttal argument by the other expert. And quite frankly, if you are lucky enough to find an expert witness, it's solely on the judge. The judge decides which expert witness can testify in the case. You know, if your expert witness develops a bad reputation in the community for rebutting all of their witnesses, chances are he may not be allowed to testify, or an alternative, he'll develop such a bad reputation he won't be able to find work. You know, the expert witnesses that the state provide, you'll see in a lot of cases that these expert witnesses, these medical labs, the prosecutor and the judge, they all sit on the same board of directors for the same companies as well as the same paper charitable organizations. That's just something to ponder. You know, I'm pretty sure everybody remembers the Madrid bombings about 4 years ago. You know, the FBI said they had a suspect, and the suspect was an attorney practicing in court. You know? And so consequently, the FBI bought 3 of their top experts, and they said, we can tell by the guy's fingerprint that this is the guy. But it so happened another country happened to already arrest a suspect and convict him. Then the FBI had to let the man go. But we wasn't heard about these sort of trials. We never was given the information about this sort of trial. You know, and quite frankly, most people believe that when a police officer or someone say we have this fingerprint, this has to be it. You know, many people consider this a dead-letter issue. But I got a question. How are fingerprints measured? Well, you put your finger on some ink. Nope. Wrong answer. Your fingerprints are measured by something called arc perspectives. And this already been proven scientifically for well over 50 years. Many people have the same identical fingerprint, and that fingerprints aren't unique. But we say that's not right. They have to be. They use it to convict people. You get that knowledge on CSI and you think that it's real. And that's what we call junk science. You know, in many cases, you know, these bomb-sniffing dogs, it's been proven over and over again that that isn't even credible evidence either. But people accept it. You know? And that leads me to the Casey Anthony trial. You know, a lot of people, they believe that if they follow the trial and watch what the media report, it somehow qualifies them to, come to a finding where someone is guilty. Whereas, you gotta admit the media, they're really good at swaying people's opinion, because the court of public opinion is something else that's hard to rebut. We figure whoever reports something first, that's who we'll believe. In the Casey Anthony trial, you ever notice most of the evidence they say that they had, it never even made it into court because they didn't have it. I'm quite bemused by it myself, because the average American feel they know what's best when it relates to executing someone. But the average American, they can't even vote for a fucking honest politician. The average American couldn't find a constitution at high noon if you placed it in front of their face outside. Quite frankly, we have those who say, well, we need a death penalty. We need a strict death penalty. When that's proven to be flawed, because on most death penalty cases, there is no forensic evidence. All we've got is the testimony of one person. And considering we have so many people that get exonerated every year on death row and released from prison, and we need reform. But they're not going to do it. In California alone, the cost to execute one person costs $300 million per execution. I got a question. Do you think it's more important that we execute criminals, or that we invest in a constituency to try to prevent crimes? Over the past 25 years or so, the cost of the death penalty has cost Californians $4 billion. $4 billion just to execute 13 people. And some of the, you got 715 people on, they're on death row cases. 13 of them were executed, and a plethora of others were exonerated. And I took out a calculator and I got to adding $4 billion is enough to send 200,000 young people to college, a community college. So do you think that it's so important that we invest in executing one person, or should we invest in our constituency? At least that way we'll have more people out there with skills that can provide for ourselves. But these high profile cases does wonders for the public relations for the government. Leads us to develop a deep zeal that they always catch the bad guys, when this isn't reality. It really goes to show something about we as Americans. We're bloodthirsty pigs. We always want to see justice done to people. We always claim we love peace. But in actuality, the only peace we have is our guns and 9mm. We call bringing peace and democracy to another nation. We influence their public policy, down of a barrel of a gun. And our mentality is, if you don't accept our public policy, we're going to invade you. And we call this peace. When we look at every civilization going over 1,000 years or so, there's always some sort of poster child or some sort of group of undesirables so that people can point their finger at to use as an example. We need to take a close look at ourselves. And I'm not saying nothing bad about the legal industry, but I just wanted the information out there so the next time you're standing on trial, if it ever happens, or if you're forced to sit on a jury, you'll have the information so you can make an intelligent decision. And just knowing about these simple things could save you, or it could save your life. Thanks for watching. Please comment, subscribe. Have a great day.